All righty. Back at it again. Another live Q&A canning sesh. It is me, Andy, with Tanglefoot Brewing. Try to jump on here and do these little live canning sessions every other Saturday or so. And today is no exception. So I am just getting set up with the whole system. I got my beer line coming off of the tap into my beer gun. Got my cans to my right, lids, October Seamer, and CO2. So I'm going to get into it. I've got just a few 6-packs that I'm going to do today. Nothing too crazy. And I will just be chugging along. So if anybody is their first time joining, or you have been on here before, feel free to drop a comment or a question in the comments, and I will get to it as soon as I can read it. So that is kind of how this thing works. And outside of that, I will try to entertain you with my stories and humor, just like you would expect from a brewery. So this first keg that I'm going to be canning off of is the 12 Degree Pale Lager. This is a premium Czech Pilsner and happens to be, most of the time, my best seller. And also happens to be my favorite beer. And I was going to tell you, or I was going to tell a story on here, and then I totally forgot what story I was going to tell. It had something to do with the, maybe I'll overview. Last night I had a customer in, and they were asking me about what makes a Czech lager. And I get this question a lot about like, what differentiates a Czech lager from other lagers or other beers. So I figured I'd go ahead and give you the spiel that I gave him last night. And if anybody has any questions about it specifically, feel free to ask me. I am by no means the ultimate authority on Czech lager, but I do specialize in Czech lager. So I know a little bit about it. But I get the question a lot because I think most people's experience with lager is just kind of your run-of-the-mill macro adjunct lager like Bud Miller Coors. And more people are getting exposed to like craft lagers and European lagers. So they're getting some more nuance in their beer experience. But basically what I always say is what makes a Czech lager is the ingredients, the recipes, obviously, and the execution. So the ingredients, generally speaking, you're using Czech ingredients. I happen to use my grain comes from a German company called Weirmann, but they make excellent malts. So I've stuck with them for a long time and haven't seen any appreciable difference between the Czech grown varieties and the German pills that I use. But it starts off with ingredients. So generally Pilsner malt is going to be the base of your pale lagers. And then the hops that I use are Czech Saaz hops. And most importantly, though, the yeast that is used, that ingredient is the most important in differentiating a Czech lager versus a German lager or whatever, American lager, Mexican lager. So the ingredients first and foremost, and then the recipes. So most of the recipes, I have 5 beers in my portfolio. And if you haven't seen the latest video on the channel, I detailed my 14 Degree Politomave, my amber lager recipe. All 5 of those recipes are available on my website if you want to brew them on a 5-gallon batch. And I have corresponding videos that kind of detail the process of how to brew those beers. But the recipes are generally pretty simple. So the pale lagers, for instance, or Pilsner, as it's more commonly known, is very basic. So generally a Pilsner is going to be Pilsner malt as the base, and then the Czech Saaz hops and the yeast, and that's it, and water, obviously. But very simple recipes. The dark lager is a little bit more complex. and the amber lager is a little bit more complex. But generally speaking, these beers are pretty simple, and it's all about the execution. So the third step in differentiating Czech lagers from other lagers is the process. So Czech lagers are ultimately, they're very balanced and drinkable, but still full of flavor. And the way that you achieve that is you make a great base wort with great ingredients, with great malts and great hops, but then you also utilize decoction, which is a process of pulling off a portion of the mash and boiling it. And that imparts some caramelization to the wort, as well as extracting some tannins and grain huskiness from the grain. And so you get this more rounded, full malt character in a simple, all Pils malt recipe. And then the more important part of it is the fermentation process. So lagers are fermented with specific yeast strains that prefer cooler temperatures. And so I knock these beers out at 50 degrees Fahrenheit and let them ferment. About halfway through fermentation, I raise the temperature to 60 degrees Fahrenheit so that it can finish out fermentation strong and then break down all the diacetyl precursor. But then the real important part of brewing a Czech lager is the lagering time. So primary fermentation takes about 1.5 to 2 weeks, up to like 3 weeks. And then you cold crash it down to your lagering temperature. I lager at around 38 to 36 degrees. And that's where the magic happens. So I lager these beers for anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. So the total time from brewing the wort to having it on draft is about 2 months. So they take much, much longer than your traditional, obviously than like traditional ales, but also traditional like American lagers that can be cranked out in like 3 weeks. And even some other like German lagers that are only lagered for like 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks. But that's kind of the overview of the difference between what makes the actual beer different. But there's also the service of the beer that is significantly different. So if you've watched any of my content or you've been to other breweries that serve Czech lagers, generally they're going to have a specific glass that resembles that of glasses you would find in the Czech Republic that are beer clean, meaning there's no foreign material on the inside, super, super clean, so it doesn't have bubbles. And then they are poured off of these Luker taps so that you create a large amount of foam. And the service of the beer is just as important as the actual beer in the Czech Republic. So that is another thing that is completely different than most other beer cultures around the world. What's up, y'all? Carlos, what motivated you to brew only Czech lagers? So this is another story. I've talked about it before, but I was running a brewery in Austin and I didn't really want to start a brewery from the ground up. I didn't want to take on that financial risk of putting in hundreds of thousands, if not $1 million into building a brewery from scratch. And the opportunity came up to potentially open a tiny little 1-barrel brewery in my family's barbecue restaurant here in Temple, Texas. So I jumped on that. It was the easiest and cheapest way to get a brewery concept off the ground. And so I decided that first. And then I decided that I was in love with lager in general. So I wanted to focus only on lager. And there was no brewery that was really focusing exclusively on lager in Texas. And so I was like, I want to do this. And then I have Czech heritage. And this part of Texas has a large Czech population, specifically in East Bell County. So I was like, well, let's bring these old world Czech style lagers to Bell County and see if it resonates with that population. So that was the impetus behind it. And I made all of those choices before ever brewing a Czech lager, which is pretty crazy. And then I went down the rabbit hole of developing recipes and brewing on a homebrew system and trialing out these different beers. And then I fell in love with the beer itself, and then ultimately fell in love with the Czech beer culture, which is, in my opinion, probably the greatest beer drinking culture in the world. It just has one, they drink more beer per capita than any other country by far, but just everywhere in the Czech Republic that you go, you'll have excellent beer served very well. And it's just like, it's amazing to go into, you can go into like a really nice restaurant and get a great pour of beer in the glassware with a coaster, with the foam, and you could go to like a dingy dive bar and get the same experience. So they're very proud of the beer and the beer service. And that really resonates with me because in my opinion, especially nowadays, there's so much amazing beer out there that the actual liquid itself is not as it's not as unique as it used to be because everybody's making great beer, but the experience and how the beer is presented and the ambiance where you drink the beer is the most important part of a beer drinking experience to me. And I wanted to celebrate that because that's one of the things in this industry that is still interesting to me, like excellent beer experiences. And on that note, I think I've asked in the stream before, but maybe we have some new viewers on here. Please let me know in the comments, is there a particularly amazing beer experience that you've had? I am trying to put together a list of like my favorite beer experiences and potentially maybe doing a series where I go out and I kind of showcase these amazing beer experiences across the state, the country, and maybe even the world if it gets to, you know, if I have the means to do that. But off the top of my head, I have a few. And I've talked about this before, so sorry if I'm like repeating myself. But the first amazing beer, not the first amazing beer experience, but one of the most pivotal beer experiences I ever had in my life was when I first went to Bamberg, Germany, and I went to, what was it? Fassler, Brewery Fassler, and had a Keller beer in the tap room or in the pub, and it just blew my mind. The ambiance of the like quaint, cozy pub filled with local German people eating lunch and drinking beers, and this incredible beer that I had not tasted anything like it before. So that was like an amazing beer experience. And then another one that I've talked about on the stream was when I went up. This was recent too. And I've been around beer for, been into beer for like 13, 14 years. And this was this year when I was in New York City. I went to McSorley's, which is the oldest pub in New York City. It's an old Irish pub, and they have two beers. They have light and dark. And you order a beer and they give you two. And they pour, it's like half the glass is foam. And I always thought that it was just kind of this like holdover that kind of stuck out through, over 100 years, and the beer would be whatever. And the beer was excellent. The experience was just like extremely busy, and the room was just full of life and energy. And I just remember that sticking out to me as just really an awesome time, or an awesome beer experience. So I'm trying to compile a list of those types of experiences. So if anybody has anything that they think is an exceptional beer experience here in the United States, please let me know. I'd love to get some other opinions on this. What does that say? Awiston, have a great canning run. Thank you. I will do my best. I'm just about to wrap up the 12 degree and move on to the 10 degree. So for those that don't know or haven't followed this channel or seen my beers or had my beers, this 12 degree pale lager is my favorite. It is a Czech pale lager, a Pilsner that is about 5% ABV. 12 degrees is the starting gravity content, sugar content of the wort. And it has a larger amount of bitterness and hop aromatics in it. So it's got good malt character, good hop bitterness, and good hop aromatics and flavor. And to me, it is like the perfect beer. Not necessarily this version, my version, but this style of beer to me is like the perfect beer. It's like the lager version of a pale ale, which if I were to choose an ale that was my favorite beer, it would definitely be a pale ale. Okay. So now we got that down. We can go ahead and move on to some labeling. So when I do shorter runs like this, let's see if I can get it. That may or may not work. But when I do shorter runs like this, I will often just hand label because I've talked about how much I can't stand this label machine that I have that's just falling apart. So I will just pull the labels off individually and hand label them. So this part of the process is pretty monotonous, but it's actually kind of relaxing. I enjoy doing this type of work. Carlos Rodriguez, thanks. I live in Forney, Texas. Hey, what's up, Forney, Texas? Looking forward to try your beer soon. Texas needs more lagers for sure. Yeah, agreed. There's a lot of them, but I feel like the DFW area in particular needs some more lager. Proofs, cheers, what's up? I'm from Temple, which is where the brewery is. I was born and raised here until I was 7, but then we moved up to the North Dallas area, specifically McKinney. And so a lot of my family's still up there. And every time I go back, I know like there's obviously breweries that make great lager up there, but not any brewery that's specifically focused on lager. So could be a gap in the market. You never know. Maybe we need a Tanglefoot satellite location up there, huh? You just get sign a petition and start a GoFundMe to get a satellite Tanglefoot location in DFW. So if anybody does have to hand label their beers, this, I think I'm making it look a little bit easier than it is, but I've done thousands and thousands of cans like this over the years. And when I first started, I would have a little jig that I'd put the can onto like I think I actually used like a to-go box or something, but then I drew lines so that the label would be straight when you put it on. And then once you do that a couple thousand times, you get some muscle memory for it. But just got to keep rolling along. Oh, forgot that this is the first week after the anniversary party. Maybe I'll give you a little update. So if anybody watched that live stream that I posted last Saturday, that was a live stream. It was about an hour or so of the beginning of the anniversary party for my 3rd year of being in business. So we had initially a polka band. Michael Morris and the Tanglefoot Trio came out and they played some polka music for a couple of hours. And then we had my girlfriend Jody's and her coworker come and play a set of some rock and roll songs, and that was great too. So we had a pretty packed house, and that happened to be the release of the 14-degree Pola Tamave. That's why I posted the day after that stream. I posted the recipe breakdown video. And again, if any of you are interested in brewing these beers, there's an entire section on my website called Stories that has PDF files of the recipes on a 5-gallon scale. And you can replicate these beers. I've had several people replicate these beers and send photos and videos of them brewing and pouring the beers. And I think that's so awesome. So if anybody wants to do that, feel free to hit me up on Instagram or Facebook. I love to see it. I love that people are interested in brewing lager out there in the homebrew world. All right. So that is the can. I need to grab some 6-packs, Pack Deck carriers. This is the fun part. This is the tactile experience. What's up, DJOI, mate? Thank you so much. I appreciate it, dude. Yeah, I'm glad you appreciate that recipe. Did you brew it? Let me know. I can never connect Instagram names with YouTube names, so let me know if you were one of the people that brewed it, because I did get a couple of messages about the 12 degree. Okay. Really appreciate it. Thanks, man. That's so cool. Okay. And we are back up top. Got to keep this thing dry with my laptop sitting on it. Yeah, 6 weeks on the lagering definitely makes a huge difference, doesn't it? Just rounds it all out. So it looks like I don't need to do any 10 degree. I just checked my cooler. I've got a few of those. So I'm going to move straight onto the 13 degree. Which is the Czech dark lager. So again, I have talked about all of these things, I'm sure, to some extent in my YouTube videos, but I think it's unreasonable to expect that everybody's seen all of the YouTube videos. So I don't mind repeating myself. But this 13 degree Tmave is a Czech dark lager. Tmave means dark in Czech. This recipe is one of the most popular. It's definitely the most highly rated and lauded beer that I have, because I think it's the most like unique. But it's got a really nice roasty coffee and chocolate character to it, from the grains that I use. But this recipe in particular is, I would say, the least authentic version of the Czech lagers that I make. I took the approach of using, so the malts that I use are Bayerman malts. They're from Germany, like I mentioned earlier in the stream. But the roasted malts that I use are, it's called Carafa Special 2. And in my opinion, it is like the best roasted malt that you can get. And the special in Carafa Special 2 means that it's dehusked. So it doesn't have, it's not roasted with the outer husk, which usually generates a lot of bitterness and acidity. So it makes a really nice rounded chocolate and coffee note in the beer. So I use that in the recipe, as well as some Cara Munich Type 1. And so this beer is full in like coffee chocolate notes and a nice caramel middle malt character, but it's very like balanced and drinkable. So a lot of people that come in here and are like, I don't like dark beer, they generally will order this beer, or their partner will order this beer. They'll take a sip and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I love this dark beer. I didn't think I liked dark beer, which is something that is pretty common. Like a lot of people have polarizing experience with dark beer. They either get something like a Guinness, which is kind of on the thinner and more acidic side, or something that's super boozy and sweet, that like a bourbon barrel aged stout. So this is like a nice middle ground and kind of a gateway to dark beer. So that's what I'm canning now, 13 degree Tmave. But back to the update after the party. So I had the 3-year anniversary party on Saturday, and there's a few things that happened that were a little interesting. So first, I got prepped up all week and canned a bunch of the 14 degree, got ready for the party. about a week before the event, I had my food truck, which is a German food truck. They're awesome. They do a really good job, and they have been at the last 2 big parties that I've thrown. They had a family emergency, so they had to cancel last minute. And so I was scrambling all week trying to get a food truck to replace them, and trying to schedule a food truck for a Saturday afternoon a week in advance is not ideal. Most people are scheduled out. So if anybody owns a brewery or is looking to start a brewery and you're looking to have food trucks are definitely a whole beast within their own right. So kind of schedule those out and be prepared for cancellations and changes. But anyways, I finally got a food truck that reached out to me and said they could help us out. And I was like, dope, this is awesome. You know, come and set up. That'd be great. So scheduled them to come out. They said they'd be here at 10:30. 11 o'clock rolls around, and I'm like, they're still not here. So let me give them a call. It was actually about 11:15, 11:20. So I called them, and they said that they were still prepping. They were still finishing up prep. I was like, okay, that's interesting. It's a little late for that, but okay. And then they called me back like 20 minutes later and said that their food truck had 2 flat tires, and basically they couldn't make it. So at the last minute, food truck canceled, and so I had no food option. So I was pretty bummed about that. But then my lovely girlfriend Jody, hello Jody if you're watching, she went and got a bunch of kolaches, donuts, and sausage kolaches for the party, and it was great. It worked out. Nobody was too concerned with the food. I had several people bring in some tacos and some pizzas, so ultimately it worked out on that front. And then once the party started, it started to fill up, and then we were pretty much full, and I was running around for like 6 straight hours, and it was awesome. So that was a good time. Just celebrating my friend Scott's B-Day. Happy birthday, Scott. Yo-Yo Dine was part of your focus on Czech lagers, the stop in distro to the U.S. since around 2018, with the exception of Czech Bar, Pilsner Urquell. No, I honestly was not aware of that. The focus was specifically for because I fell in love with these beers and this beer culture and service, and wanted to bring it to Central Texas, and thought it would work well with, you know, the large proportion of Czechs that are in this area. And that was really the impetus. And plus I only wanted to focus on lagers. So it wasn't anything else that was like there was a gap in the market, other than like nobody was really focusing on the Czech lager experience. Although shortly after I opened in Waco, just north of here, a really nice, like fully fleshed out, beautiful Czech brewery, restaurant, hotel, beer spa place called Pivovar opened up. So they also kind of had the same thought. I think they're from the investors and stuff are from the Czech Republic, so they kind of had the same thought as I did. But yeah, it wasn't based on any logistical issues. It was mostly just mostly self-indulgent, if I'm being honest. Hello from Norway. What's up? Hello from Texas. I hope your weather is slightly better than ours here. We've had a crazy few weeks of weather, tons of rain and hail and tornadoes, and it's been nuts. Just out here celebrate okay, there, that makes more sense. Thanks, dude. I appreciate it. I love all the love. So ultimately, 3-year anniversary was a success, but if I'm being honest, one of the things about parties and big events and stuff is it can be easy to get really stoked about having a packed house. because I mean that's what you want, right? Like you want to be super busy and sell a bunch of beer. But it's pretty sobering when that happens, and then like this week, the week after has been very slow, and so it's nice to have a packed house for events, but it would be nicer if it was a more consistent flow of people on the daily. Oh, and the other part of the party that I didn't bring up was that all of the 6-packs that I canned up, I sold a lot less than I did last year, which I don't know why, just for whatever reason. A lot more people, I sold more pints or more glasses of beer, but less 6-packs to go, which is last year. I think I sold out within like 2 hours or something like that. And that's just a little nuance. 10C and rain. 10C, what is that? Is that like 40 degrees? 45? That sounds better than 88 degrees and like 90% humidity to me. Got 15 folks in here. What's up, everybody? There you go. My C to F conversion is not great. I know 0 and I know 100. Norway. I think I had somebody, can't remember if I had a friend that moved to Norway. Or maybe they just traveled there. What's the beer scene like up there? Is there any traditional Norwegian beer scene, or is it kind of like the American craft beer scene spreading over there? Okay. Let's see, I'm gonna go ahead and shut this off and do some more labeling. Okay, let's drop this down. Sweet. Move the laptop out of the way. Let's see, can you see that? Yeah, you can see it. Zach Sack, excellent advice on food trucks. We opened Parlor Brewing in Arkansas 7 weeks ago and learned every lesson you mentioned. That's awesome. Congratulations, man. What kind of beers do y'all focus on? Okay, switch this out for fresh roll of 13. Focus. Arkansas, what's the beer scene like out there? They have more lenient beer laws than Alabama. I know Alabama had some pretty wonky beer laws for a long time. So does Texas. So I guess it's not super unique, but sorry for the multiple message. You're good, dude. No worries. Yes, there's some here brewing with, is it Quake or Kvike? I always have a problem saying that, but not many. What's the most, like what beers are popular out there? Is it, just traditional lager or is like traditional beer brewed with Quake? I would assume some lagers. Okay, get these labels on. Oh, this one's got the sticker. Great. This is the part that nobody needs to see. I'll have to scrub that off with some water or something because that is not working. Lager is big in Norway. Cool. We did early on at the other brewery I worked at in Austin, we did a collaboration with a brewery in Denmark and had their brewer come up. He was like 70 and has had a brewery for a long time. And he came over and brewed this. It was just kind of like a darker ale that was just, it had a slight amount of smoke. It was brewed with some beechwood smoked malt. It was very good, but the beer turned out with such good malt character that we ended up switching our entire portfolio of beers over to Weyermann malts because he used Weyermann malts, and that is what started the saga of me using Weyermann malts because we really liked the quality of the beer after we brewed his recipe over here with those malts. So that's a fun little story. But I've never been to Denmark. I've been to the Netherlands. I've been to Belgium, Germany, Czech Republic. I haven't made it up that way yet. All right. Just wrapping up on these. And after I get done canning these, I don't really have too much else to do but break down. So if anybody has any other questions or comments, please feel free to drop them in the comment section. This will be a shorter stream. I've got some other errands to run to go pick up some supplies for the brewery after this. So I'll probably cut out of here in just a couple of minutes. So let me know if y'all have any other thoughts or questions or whatever. I'm happy to continue to talk to myself as well. It's one of the problems with the solo streams that there's no sounding board. There's no other person to drive the conversation. So then I just get in my head focused on what I'm doing and then I forget that I haven't said anything for like 10 seconds. Smoke malt is a big part of Norway, but most homebrewer. Nice. Yeah, we've used a couple of different interesting smoked malts. The beechwood smoked malt was my favorite for sure, because it was nice and subtle. But we also did some kind of traditional oak smoked malt, and then we had a local maltster in the Austin area that would make some custom smoked blends, and we did a beer collaboration for a movie. Actually, there's a movie called Bad Batch that we did a collaboration for the release for, and we used peachwood smoked malt, which was pretty weird, pretty interesting. It was subtle as well. It wasn't too crazy. because I muted myself. Idiot. I moved the laptop and I hit the mute button on the receiver. Okay, so all the stuff that I just said was, if you are in Salem, Notch is out there. I don't know if you heard that or not, but Notch Brewing, they're a big inspiration to me starting this place. I think they have a location in Salem and Brighton, maybe somewhere else. I don't know. But yeah, definitely go check them out if you haven't already. They're the OGs of bringing the Lucretap to the States. And yeah, they focus on a lot of Czech lagers and do a great job from what I hear. So, but then outside of that, I was saying that this is Saturday. This is the last day of the week for me. I guess I could bring this up on the stream next week. I'm probably going to be cutting hours on Thursdays. I may be closing on Thursdays altogether. It's been quite slow on Thursdays. So if nothing else, I will at least cut the hours to 4 to 8 on Thursday and most likely 4 to 8 on Fridays. Those hours, like 1 to 4, have just been pretty dead. So it's just me sitting up here doing nothing. So I think I will alter those hours this week. Any cameras you could recommend for someone looking to can on the homebrew scale? Oh, canners. I thought that said cameras. Yeah, I mean, the October Seamer, I would highly recommend that. I know it's a little pricey for homebrew, but I've seen some results with the is it cannular? I think they're better now, but the original one did not impress me. They had some pretty big technical flaws that I didn't like. And it was automatic and wouldn't seem super well. But I've heard that it works better now. So maybe the cannular one, I think they're only a few $100s as opposed to these October ones, which are in the, at least $1,000. But if you have the money, the October Seamer, I'm sure the homebrew version is fine, but this is this one has all stainless steel on it. The original versions kind of had just like regular rough steel, and so they would get corroded and break down over time. But yeah, I recommend that. And then if you are looking to can off taps, the Blickman beer gun is great. I've also seen some people that use that Tapster. All these names are jumbled together to me, but basically the counter pressure filler that has a couple of valves, one for CO2 and it pressurizes it, and then one for the beer. I've heard that does well as well. So yeah, you can make it work on a homebrew scale without too much investment. But yeah, you're part of the Notch Mug Club. Dope. That's cool. Yeah, I actually had a funny story. I know I said that I was just about to jump off, but I had a customer that he came here a lot, and he got deployed to Europe. He was in the Army, and he went up to Boston as he was flying out, and he went to Notch and had a Tanglefoot shirt on, and then somebody there recognized it, which I thought was so cool. Said that they like have seen the YouTube channel, so I thought that was awesome. Maybe it was you, who knows? But yeah, Notch is great. I want to make it up there. I'd love to make it up to Notch. I should probably do that. Just dedicate some time and money and get a plane ticket and go up to Boston, because I've never been to Boston. Hear great things. Neat, thank you. I had mixed things about those cannular ones as well. Yeah, I haven't used them, so I don't want to speak poorly, but I do have a couple of buddies that have used them. One who tried to use it in a brewery setting, and it didn't work out too well. Obviously, bottles are more accessible on the homebrew scale, but if you do have the money to invest in a canning machine, you can make it work. And just purge the hell out of the cans or the bottles and make sure that there's no oxygen, and should have high quality packaged product. And then as far as there's a video on the channel about canning in a small brewery. Go check it out to see the whole explanation of this process. But the Blickman beer gun, I think, is like $200, $150 to $200, something like that. The Seamer aside, because that can be pricey depending on which one you get. But the the label applicator, if you do end up buying like rolls of labels, there's a label applicator called the Label Destroyer, the Label Slayer, and that thing was like $50 or $100 or something. It's like a 3D printed one, and it got me by for the first few months, but I ended up getting this rolling label applicator off of Amazon, and it came in without parts, with parts missing. So probably not the best option. Probably should have just splurged and got the $500 like one that was actually made for it. But yeah, labeling cans is a pain. But if you go to, I think October sells pre-labeled cans. I think that's true. So you can just order cans. They come in a box like this, and they just come with labels on. They're obviously more expensive, but you know, that's kind of the price you pay if you want to not have to do the work of labeling them yourself. And then outside of that, you just need PackTech carriers, or I guess you could just get like used ones from 6-packs that you buy. That works fine. But yeah, that's all I got. Anyways, thank you all for joining the live. Thanks for the donation or super chat. I don't even know what those things are called, but I much appreciated. Any money is always good money. I like it. So cheers. Y'all have a great, I don't know, great day, great week, great month, great year. Just have a great time. Go out and brew some beers, brew some lagers. If you haven't brewed lagers at home, try it out. It's worth it. And yeah, we'll catch you on the next one. I may do one. I don't know if I'll do one next week, but probably the week after that. So more updates to come. We're coming into the summer. Things get kind of weird during the summer. Maybe making some big changes. So I'll try to keep y'all updated on that. And then I'll put out some more videos on the channel. But again, thank you for watching. We'll see y'all in the next live. Bye-bye.